Let's take a look at GitHub Actions. As you can see here, I have a repository, a public repository at cogs.io/acto, and it has nothing other than a git ignore for node, a license, and a readme. And so I'm going to go ahead and clone that to my local environment here within a folder called samples. I'm going to go ahead and copy here the address. And as you can see there, that has copied over. Let me go ahead and move into Acto. And we can see there the files as expected. Now I'm going to go ahead and open that directory. And as you can see there, it has just those two files. And I'm going to copy over some code that I have from another application. And this application is very simple. It's just running a hello world test using Jest. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this onto this new repository. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. Let's put this here aside for a moment. Now I'm going to go ahead and init my application for npm. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the default, the version. I'll say here testing GitHub Actions. The entry point is hello.js. That's fine. For a test command, I'm going to use Jest because that's what we will be using. The Git repo, no keywords. Enter my name as an author. License. Is this okay? I'll say yes. And now we have, you can see here, our package.json. I'm going to go ahead and install Jest. And now I'm going to go ahead and add one more dependency, and that dependency has to do with some testing utilities that we're using in some of the courses that we're building. This is already an npm, so I can enter simply npm install the name of the package that's called course utilities. And once that is installed, then if things went well, I can go ahead and just run npm test. So let's go ahead and run that. And as you can see there, we have a passing test. Now, in order to do an action, we need to add a directory. This is going to be a hidden directory. Let me go ahead and clear my screen here and make a directory. And it's going to be .github. We'll then go ahead and move into .github. And inside of it, we're going to create another directory called workflows. So our path here, given that I'm working on the desktop, is acto/github. And then actually I need to be inside of workflows. So we can see there where we are. And inside of workflows is where we would write the YAML for our GitHub Actions. And in this case, I'm simply going to write, as I mentioned at the beginning, a very simple test. So let's go ahead and create that test, that YAML now. And given that we're going to write a test, let's go ahead and call it test. So this will be test.yaml. And inside, I'm going to go ahead and paste some YAML that I have written beforehand. And I'll overview what each of these lines are. The very first one is simply the name. Then when are we actually going to run it? We're going to run it on push or pull request. And the branch that we're looking at is master. Then the test, you can see down here, will run on Ubuntu's latest. And this is for the container that's going to be created. And you can see here also the actions that we're going to take, the name that we're going to give it. Ultimately, all we are doing is provisioning a node installation. You can see here node version 12x. And then we're going to go ahead and run npm install. That will add all of the dependencies, in this case Jest, and those course utils that I added. And ultimately run, you can see there on that last line, run npm test. So I'm going to go ahead and close this file, save it, confirm that it's there, and we can see there that it is. Now at this point, let me go ahead and clear my screen, and let's go ahead and move a couple of directories up. And from here, we're going to go ahead and add our changes into Git, which will trigger that action. So let's go ahead here and go through our add cycle. Let me go ahead and check here the status, and you can see there all of the content that I've added. Then I'm going to go ahead and add it all. Check the status again to make sure that all of those are on queue, clear. Then I'm going to go ahead and commit. And in this case, I'm simply going to say first commit, since this is a brand new repo that I created just for this. I'll say here first commit. And then I'm going to go ahead and push my changes up. And once those are there, we can go ahead and go back here to our repo. And we should be able to see here the actions momentarily. And you can see there now that that is queued. And in a moment, I'll go ahead and inspect it. Okay, and you can see there the little green check, meaning everything went through okay. If I were to look inside of it, you can see here the tests that were run. You can see the installation that took place. You can see my actual test. And you can see here that the test passed, just like they did here on the desktop. In some of the wrap up, just that is part of that cycle when it comes to the actions. But this is a pretty simple example. However, it illustrates running a test on the server side, on the cloud. And you could see that I also requested it on any pull request, which means that anybody that tried to upload some code to my repo would get that action applied to it directly. And if I came by and wanted to see if the code that they had proposed was passing tests, I could do so pretty simply. So this is a very minimal initial look at a GitHub action, simply testing some code.